Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vassell and Sam Healy.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia. Hello. Hi, I'm Sam Healy. I had to fix something real quick, sorry.
Today we're taking a look at Spirit Island. Now this is a game from the fabled Nexus line from Greater Than Games. They have three lines. They have Dice Hate Me, they have the Sentinels comics, and Fabled Nexus.
Okay.
Dice Hate Me is more for the lighter games, Fabled Nexus is for the heavier games. And I think that's a very legitimate thing. This is a fairly heavy cooperative game.
It is. I agree.
He's already pursing his lips. It's heavy.
No, it's just that sounds confusing. That business structure is kind of weird. Okay, Fabled Nexus. Got it.
Well, I don't even think like Greater Than Games on the box. It's just Fabled Nexus.
No,
So
the
it's
back of the box. Right there.
There it is. Okay. Anyhow, we spent too much time on that. In this game, you are spirits. So this is like an anti-colonialistic thing where there's an island and there's people colonizing the island from some European country, and the natives are trying to like fight them off or whatever. You're going to fight them off through more substantial methods.
Why did it have to be European countries?
Because they specifically have them in the book, remember?
Oh my goodness.
So
I mean, your spirits, all right? Deal with that.
So you're spirits and you're scaring the nonsense out of these guys.
Right.
You are.
I think you're doing more than scaring them.
You're also fighting them, flooding them, firing them. However, they're also pretty strong too, and there's so many of them.
Yes.
Here's how it plays. Each player is going to pick a spirit that they're going to be. So maybe a thunder speaker, or river surges in sunlight, or lightning sweet strike, bringer of dreams and nightmares. So each one tells you kind of a play style, how complicated it is to play. So like this one's an easy one to play. Tells you kind of how your powers are, and it also tells you how to set up on the back. You'll then flip the board over, and this is going to have other things that you're going to do: innate powers, presence, growth, a lot of different, and a special ability that you have. So each player is going to pick their guys. Let's say I pick Vital Strength of the Earth, and you're going to cover all these spots with discs except for the first two. You also place them on the board. This is a board that's set up for 3 players, by the way. You have boards enough for 4 players, and you'd make it a slightly different configuration. You can also use the other side. This side has a nicer look to it, but it's harder to tell the differences apart. You're also going to have things set up. You got invader cities, you have invader towns, and you have just the invader little explorers running around. You have your own presence. This is to show your spirits are there. And you have blight. Now, blight is a bad thing. You'll start with a pile of blight on this card, which could change. There's a lot of variables in this game. I'm not going to be able to cover all of them, but you could have some blight on a healthy island, and after it ends up, it's a different kind of blighted island, or you just play the basic game with this blight here. And you don't want to have, if all the blight is gone from here, you're going to lose the game. You'll have a pile of fear cards set up over here, a pile of explore cards here where you're going to come to the island. At the beginning of each turn, players are going to look at their board, all of them, and pick one of the options of growth. So here I can pick reclaim cards. So what that means is each player has a specific set of cards for their character. You have 4. You're going to get more cards throughout the game. But when you play cards, you don't get them back. But I can get them back by reclaiming them. Then I can add a presence to the board that's 2 spaces away from where I'm at now. Or I can gain a power card. When you gain a power card, you'll be drawing from these minor or major power decks. And you can draw these cards. You're going to try to pick cards that match you. Cards are going to have a cost in energy. They're going to have different symbols on the side. They have all different things that they can do. The major ones are bigger and stronger than the minor ones, but they are also more expensive, and you may not be able to afford to play them. And then this one here lets me add 1 and just gives me 2 energy. Energy is the currency to be able to play the different power cards that players have. After you do this, each player is going to look at their board, which will probably stay straighter if I don't keep picking it up and down. And they're going to see the lowest number or the highest number that's available here on presence. They are going to be able to get that much energy. So when I'm placing presence, I can decide to place it from the top to make my energy go up. Then each player can play power cards equal to the number here. So if I want to be able to play more power cards per turn, I'll remove presence, I'll put it from the bottom. Presence can be destroyed in the game or removed from the board, but that's just removed. It doesn't come back to your board here. Now players are going to look at the cards that they play. There's two types of cards. There are fast cards and slow cards. Fast cards happen after everyone plays their cards and pays for them. This is the cost and energy at the top. Fast cards happen immediately, and then the invaders will go, and then slow cards happen, as evidenced by the turtle. Each card is different things. This one here, for example, remove a blight and defend 4. So I'll stick one of my tokens in an area, and it defends better against the invaders. Here, the invaders skip all actions in this land this turn, so I can pick a land, and the invaders won't do anything. Here, I can gather up to 2 of these and gather huts. I can bring them in to another place, 2 explorers and 2 huts. Here, I can do 2 damage to an enemy if a target land has at least 3 huts, plus 3 damage, and 2 fear. Fear is an important thing in this game. Every time you get fear, you're like scaring the invaders and bringing it from the top to the bottom. When all the fear comes from the top, you're going to get a fear card, which is going to happen after the invader phase. Fear cards are super powerful. They get more powerful depending on what phase you're in. So you start with terror level 1, and they get even more powerful. Once you have enough fear cards come down, terror level 2 happens, and you place it over here. For players to win the game in terror level 1, they need to kill all explorers, destroy all towns and cities. In terror level 2, they only need to get rid of towns and cities. In terror level 3, they only need to get rid of cities. And if they get all the fear cards out, they win the game. Now, that's a difficult thing to do because the invader phase is very difficult. In the invader phase, in each spot by this card, and you're going to shuffle a deck and have it. So here in all these spots here, you're going to build. And we're going to add little towns there, unless there already is towns, and you add cities. Then this card will move here next turn where Ravage, where there will be a fight. There's also Explore, where more explorers will show up in all these places. Starting in round 2 and after, there will be a fight in this area. So whenever there's a fight, the natives, there's these native huts here, will be fighting against these things. So these guys will do damage, 1, 2, or 3, and the native huts first get hit, then respond and do damage, and they will fight each other. And if the invaders do at least 2 damage, they'll be adding another blight token to an area. These cities can take damage. It's interesting, they lay them on their side to show there's only 2 damage left. When you flip it over here, there's only 1 hit point left, and then it's removed. And the cities are the same way. The towns are the same way. They start at 2. You lay them down to show they have only 1, and then you remove it after that point. So the natives are doing most of the fighting against the invaders, but you're going to be helping them and trying to improve them and make them better. And they're going to be getting obliterated too as time goes by these invaders who are going to keep coming out because they're going to show up in different areas. Eventually they'll show up and fight in more areas, in multiple areas, or in areas that are next to the coast. And it gets more and more dangerous, and it's your job to try to calm them down, to push them back, because this explore area won't happen if there's no cities or other invaders next to those areas to get into that area. So you're just going to be fighting back and forth and trying to get better cards. Players also have these innate powers, and when you play your cards, all the cards you play in a turn, you just add up all the powers on them, and if it's enough to launch one of your innate powers, you can do it, which can be very, very powerful. For example, this one here, if I get to here, once per turn, the target spirit may repeat a power card with energy cost of 1 or less. So let someone else repeat a card, but if I get it to the highest level, they can be 6 or less. So someone can do a really powerful card twice. And each of these guys has not only, again, different growth and different abilities that will show up. Like, for example, the Thunder Speaker has these symbols show up, but they also have different innate powers. They have special abilities, and it's going to take players a while to learn how each of these actually works. If that's not enough variety for you, the game also comes with different kinds of scenarios that you will play, and you can also play against not just generic invaders, but pick an actual kingdom, and when they come, you will deal with things very differently. They're much harder, and the game has kind of a setup to show you how difficult things can get and how hard each scenario, plus if you're playing against specific explorers, etc. So that's a very basic overview of the game. You're trying to beat one of the tier levels and destroy enough of the invaders to stop them from ever wanting to come to this island again. Meanwhile, they're trying to get blight on the land. All right, graphic design. I'm a huge fan of the art in this game, of the different spirits and stuff.
Yeah.
And I this guy looks like spooky, bringer of dreams and nightmares. I don't think these other guys are friends with him.
That might not be. That might be
hangs
true.
out. He hangs out in the
is
center of
definitely
the
a
island.
loner.
They're like, all right,
Nobody
you
wants-
can help us fight these guys off, but then you go
But
back
then
to
you
your
go
cave.
back to where you were.
I like the artwork of the game a lot myself. I remember the first time I saw the cover, actually, I thought it was really attractive. It's very evocative. It's got I don't know, it just stood out from what else is out there. And then when I found that it was cooperative, I was on board for sure. But the look, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, you do have a kind of a weird thing in that regard. I'd be like, hey, this game takes over now. You're like, I'm like, it's cooperative. You really kind of...
Yeah.
Now, not just the look of the game, but I also like the components. I like all the little plastic pieces. One thing that I was really impressed with, this is maybe a small thing, but I just thought it was a neat thing, was when these cities take the hit points, you turn it over and there's 2. You turn it over, it's 1, and then it's gone.
Right.
It's just like, and there's 3 buildings, so when it's standing up, you know there's 3 hit points.
Yeah.
That's a minor thing, but I liked it.
No, it's cool.
The only thing I didn't like was the other side of these boards.
You don't like...
Now, they look cool, but that's not functional.
No.
This side doesn't look as cool, but it's way easier to figure out what's what.
Right.
But I also like that the board does tell you exactly what goes where.
Yeah.
That's, like, for setup, so much easier.
I think if they just chose a different color palette on this, it would have been a lot better.
Yeah, maybe.
It's just too muted.
Or it's too samey almost. They're like trying to, and they also are
Well, they're
bleeding
trying to
stuff
blend
in.
the edges, and that means you're going to have a little bit of a hard time sometimes telling where
Right.
something ends and begins. Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't as pretty, but it's gobs more functional
Yeah.
in the actual game.
Yeah.
2 things you need to know, though, about this game. 1, it's fairly involved. Complex, it's not overly complex, but it's one of the more complex cooperative games I played.
Yes.
And 2, it's hard.
Very.
It's one of those games you need to learn how to play it to win. I think very few people are ever going to win their first time through.
Sure.
Because each of these spirits, it's asymmetrical. That's awesome. They're really different.
Yeah.
But you need to know not only how to use yours, but how to work together. You need to figure out how to essentially form a ring of protection on the island, so that, because these guys just keep popping up and popping up and popping up, and you're like, stop popping up. Well, you don't throw the game board, but
I do.
what did you think about the difficulty and complexity?
The difficulty is what it is. That's fine. It's a tough game that most co-ops are going to be tough. That's okay. The complexity I thought was a little overwrought. I did not enjoy how much was going on, how fiddly everything was, how many people you had to put on the board and take off and move the little mushroom-looking things and then move the little plastic dudes. There's too much going on. And for me, obviously, and while I'm speaking, assume it's in my opinion. But, I just did not enjoy how much... how the game did not feel streamlined.
What did you think about the complexity?
Well, the complexity for me is I think part of the reason why we were going back to what Z was saying in that first game that we played, I don't think we were doing very well. I think if we are better players, there isn't as much coming out onto the board.
No, but that has nothing to do with complexity. It has to do with difficulty.
Right, but you were
I don't have
talking
a problem
about
with the difficulty. I have a problem with the complexity.
right, but that's part of you were saying that about the complexity.
You're saying you're
How
putting
you
so
were
much
just
stuff on
putting
the
so much
board.
stuff out on the board, and it's fiddly and it's all that kind of stuff.
I do think it's all fiddly. Even the thing Tom mentioned that he liked, the building, it's clever in concept. Building standing up, it's 3. You put it on the side, it's 2. You put it on the other side, it's 1, and you remove it. That's clever.
Yeah.
It does not look good. Why is the building on its side and then it flips over to the other side and it's fiddly?
It's been damaged.
Yeah, just a one-time thing. It's kind of like when you, in like Axis and Allies, when a battleship got damaged, you laid it on its side.
And I think that looks bad.
Wow. Wow!
It looks bad.
You're only doing it for like
guess.
a quick moment.
Yeah, it's a damaged building though. It's a damaged city. I don't think it's. Would you rather have another piece that is a damaged city and you have to replace it?
No, but it's fiddly.
All right, well, here's the thing. I think the complexity is not as bad once you know what you're doing. And I know that's said about a lot of games.
Right.
But the nice thing about this game is it's like, pick one of these 3 things at the top. Boom. take this. How many cards can you play? Play the cards. I tell you exactly what to do. Fast and slow. Although I wish that the fast and slow cards were like green and red backgrounds.
Instead of just a little tiny icon.
Yeah, because so many times you're like, I'm going to play this. Oh, it's slow.
Yeah.
And even though the fast and slow thing is a cool idea, as a developer, I think I would have cut that part out. Because there are so many times it's like, oh, wait, we're doing the slow things first, then they go, then the fast things. Oh, this changes one thing to fast.
That kind of agrees with what I'm saying then, that the game needed a couple more passes to be streamlined.
I'm just saying that one thing is my one.
Well, that's one pass. Maybe that could have been simplified,
But again, I'm kind of, at the same time, I'm just really excited. This innate power thing I think is really cool. I like how when you play cards, you're slowly getting more powerful. The game does kind of try to walk you through everything. The first time you play, it tells you which of these guys to use, and it gives you power cards. Instead of you drawing and picking which cards you're going to use, it gives you, the next turn, when you draw a power card, you draw this one. Okay, great. Right. And those cards are made to work together. Sure. It's kind of like many other Euro games, Race for the Galaxy and stuff, where they give you these starting hands. However, once you know what you're doing, then like, nah, I want to go for this power. And the powers are so thematic.
They are.
I really feel like, oh, we're flooding them away. Yeah. We're lighting them on fire, stoning up, bringing in your nightmares. I just love that stuff. No, but it's neat because the theme itself, I would normally not be, I'd be like, oh, colonials versus natives, but you're like in the background.
It is a weird theme. It's an interesting, different theme. This idea of you being the spirits has been done, but not in a cooperative game where you're keeping out invaders off of your island that already has people on it, you know what I mean?
And you're not docile at all.
You're not the people, you are these spirits. It's a bizarre theme that is clever and very captivating, really. But for me, then all of that kind of got wrapped up in a very Euro feeling kind of game that, while it has an interesting theme, it didn't necessarily feel super thematic to me. So that's interesting that you thought it felt very thematic. I guess I didn't quite get that.
I thought the power
feeling.
Cards were thematic. Yeah. Like, oh, and now I'm, typhoon, roar.
Yeah, right.
Or, wake up in the middle of the night screaming. That sort of thing.
Man, get off of that nightmare, dude.
He's my favorite.
Scary cat.
Yeah.
What do you think about the theme?
No, I really thought the theme was interesting. It was evocative as far as getting into the game and, being a spirit that is scaring off a bunch of colonists. That's a cool take on the whole anti-colonialism shtick.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really neat thing that they did.
I wish these guys were in Seafall.
Well,
come on, you know it.
Wow, you had to go there.
I'm sorry.
I do like though that these different spirits, they all have a complexity rating on them. So if you want to have a harder, difficult time figuring out your character, you play one of the higher ones. Right. They also have low complexities as well. So if you want an easier flowing game as far as learning how to use your character and stuff like that, you can play with one of those, and you can actually mix and match them. So I like that as well. I thought everything was really cool. The power deck that you have to kind of try to sift through to power up your spirit is also really cool. You were talking about that earlier. So I really enjoyed it. It is a little bit heavier than I usually like my cooperative games to be, though. So I am understanding what you're saying, but at the same time, I think I probably liked it a little bit better than you did.
Yeah, and for me, there's a little bit of a disconnect. Also, I look at this cover, I read about the idea, this on the back, the theme, and you're going, oh man, this is gonna be so thematic. But then it plays like a Euro. There's a lot of mechanisms. There's a lot of adding and subtracting dudes and this and that, and so it's very mechanical in many ways, and that's not bad. It's solidly designed. They clearly put a lot of thought into this, but it's not, for me, as captivating as I would like it to be.
All right, so what's your final rating?
I'm gonna give it half a nightmare up.
What?
Half a nightmare. Half a nightmare.
For how...
Well, it's not negative.
For the amount of...
No, it didn't go down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's half. It's half up. And again, I think it's not for me. I obviously, but I think it will appeal to people that enjoy heavier games, and you want this sort of bizarre co-op with a lot going on underneath it.
What about you?
I'm going to give it 1 Thunder speaker up. I did enjoy it. I think it's a little bit too long and a little bit too heavy for my liking, but I did enjoy the game. I think it's a well-designed game, and I love the theme, the idea that's behind it, and I think the mechanisms are well integrated into that theme as well. So, but again, it's just a little bit too long for my tastes for what it is and for a cooperative game. So 1 Thunder speaker up.
I really like it. I am fascinated by the innovative. It feels fresh. There's a lot of things in here I haven't seen before. I like the power cards and the interplay, and taking the discs off and becoming things on the board. Having 2 discs together being a holy place, and that matters for certain cards. I thought the theme was extremely strong, but I just have better vision than Z mostly in that regard.
That's probably it.
No, but I
think like the holy places could have been done away with. The fast and slow could have been done away with. There could have been some streamlining.
And maybe that's not a thing. The only reason I'm giving it 1.5 thumbs of fire up. The only reason I knock it a little bit is because I think it is a little more difficult than I would like it to be. Even on the easy level, I think it's pretty hard.
Like difficulty-wise, and how tough it is to beat.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking Robinson Crusoe level of difficulty, I think, really.
It's nasty.
So, but when you win, that makes it that much cooler. And I like the fact that you have these tarot cards, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, we just nailed you guys. Briefly, they come right back.
Yes.
they're like, you're like this island, and they're almost like little insects. You're like, get off. Okay, good, I got them off. I want my other arm.
Yep.
So
that's a good way to put it.
So it's fun. It's interesting. I like to explore it some more. Spirit Island. I'm Tom Vassell.
Z Garcia, thank you.
Sam Healy. See you on the flip side.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.